1031 exchanges can be boring to talk about, but often have so many misconceptions in real estate. Today, we're going to talk about the latest top 10 1031 exchange misconceptions. Okay, let's start. Number 1, vacation and second homes qualifying. Can you sell your investment property and use a 1031 exchange to buy your vacation dream home or second home? Maybe. You can sell your investment real estate and reinvest the gain, tax deferred, to purchase a qualifying property. So here's the challenge though, making sure it will qualify as a 1031 investment property. How do you do that? Well, I'm glad you asked. During the initial 24 months of ownership, there are strict rules to follow regarding personal use. The important rule that you can only use the property for 14 days out of the year or 10% of the actual days that you rent it out. Confused? Yeah, me too. Let me explain. So as an example, if you rent it out for 200 days each year, your personal use can be up to 20 days. So if you are able to abide by these rules, after 2 years, the dream vacation or second home is yours to use as often as you like without any more requirements. Disclaimer here though, check with your local tax advisor so I don't get any hate mail if things go haywire with you. So let's move on to tip number 2, like kind. What does like kind mean? Well, like kind is a requirement that means you have to exchange the same exact type of property. Does like kind requirement mean you have to exchange the same exact type of property? For example, an apartment building for another apartment building. What do you think the answer is? It's okay, I'll wait a minute. You may be surprised to know that the answer, in fact, is false. The like kind requirement doesn't mean selling and buying the exact same type of property. Oh, no. In a 1031 exchange, you can actually exchange real property for virtually any other property in the U.S. Did you hear that? Let me say it again. Any other real property in the U.S. Are you thinking of selling in Mississippi and buying in California? What about selling in California and buying in Florida? You can do that. Just as long as the property is held for productive use in a trade or business or for investment purposes. The term like kind refers to the nature or character of the property, not its grade or quality. If for the reason nearly all real property is like kind to all real property, you can sell a rental house, buy an apartment, commercial, industrial, mini storage, bare land, agricultural, etc. Your wheels are spinning now, aren't they? Tip number 3, net sales proceeds. Is the net sales proceeds the exact price my relinquished property sold for? No. False. Your net proceeds is what your relinquished property sold for, the contract sales price, minus any closing costs and commissions, such as sales costs, sales commissions, attorneys, escrow fees, recording fees, exchange fees. The net sales proceeds is now the amount to use in your new replacement property if you are seeking full tax deferral with your 1031 exchange. So, you with me so far? Good. Let's move on to tip number 4, reinvesting your proceeds. Do you have to reinvest the profits or gain from the sale of the relinquished property to fully defer your taxes in a 1031 exchange? To have a full tax deferral, you need to reinvest the entire amount of equity from the relinquished property you sell into your new investment property. You also need to, customer calling. You also need to buy equal or greater in value compared to the property you sold and replace the value of the debt that you had in your old relinquished investment property. So, let's say you purchase property lower in value, or you take a portion of the cash from the closing of the sale and only invest a portion of your proceeds toward the 1031 exchange. You will have a partial tax deferred transaction rather than deferring all of your taxes. This is commonly referred to as a boot, and you will pay taxes on those funds not reinvested. So tip number 5, replacing the debt. Must you have equal or greater debt on the replacement property you are purchasing? False. On your new replacement property, you do need to replace the value of the debt paid off on the relinquished property, but the debt does not have to be replaced with debt. You can always bring your own cash from and outside of the 1031 exchange to the closing table for the replacement property to offset any reduction in debt. Or use other options such as seller financing, where the seller of the replacement property finances the purchase using a carryback note. Or you can use private money, or even get another loan from a lender. However, if you're getting a loan, you want to avoid the loan overfunding at closing to result in a boot situation. Remember that from before? Very often at close of escrow, the loan value will be figured in and then the QI funds requested. If this leaves any proceeds in the account, this will result in a boot situation because now you have cash in hand. So make sure that you are working with your tax advisor to assure that this does not happen to you. Number 6, equal or greater value of your replacement property. Still with me? Hang tight. The overall price of the replacement property doesn't really matter. False. In addition to replacing value of debt and rolling overall equity, you have full tax deferral. You also need to purchase the replacement property at equal or greater value to that one being sold. This means looking at the price of the relinquished property you're selling. Figure out what your net proceeds are going to be, then the price of the replacement property you're buying. So buy equal or greater than. Again, please talk to your tax advisors to confirm the exact amounts to avoid a tax consequence. So tip number 7. Replacement property improvements. What if you already purchased your new replacement property and now you want to use exchange funds to make improvements to the replacement property to increase its value for the 1031 exchange? Can you do that? No, sorry. Making improvements to a replacement property is a great way to raise its value, but you can't do it through a 1031 delayed exchange. If you plan on making improvements to a replacement property, you need to plan ahead. You can use exchange proceeds by constructing an improvement exchange, also known as a built-to-suit exchange or a construction exchange. This IPX 1031, though it's through a separate entity, it takes title to the property while the improvements are made and then transfers to the improvement property to you. The structure adds much more complexity and cost to your exchange, though. Just saying it gives me a headache. So let's move on to tip number 3, related parties. Can you purchase a replacement property from someone in your family, such as a brother or a sister? Well, depends. Buying the replacement property from a person or entity classified as a related party requires careful consideration and may not be permitted. You have to follow specific rules for the exchange to qualify for the tax deferral, and there may be a 2-year holding period. Tip number 9, last-minute reverse exchange. You found the perfect property and it's going to sell fast. Sound familiar? Can you do a quick reverse exchange and buy that replacement property now and then sell the old relinquished property? Sadly, no, that's false too. The concept of buying first and selling second is correct, but reverse exchanges are not quick or simple to set up. Reverse exchanges require extra time to structure. In a reverse exchange, you can own your replacement property and relinquished property at the same time. This is where the IPX 1031 through an affiliated entity needs to be the title holder of the old relinquished property to the new replacement property. Given this requirement, reverse exchanges can take a long time. And because there's increased complexity and more steps involved, there's additional costs and fees than any typical delayed exchange. So let's move on lastly to tip number 10, vesting. Do you need to hold legal title for the new replacement property in the same exact name or entity as you held the old relinquished property? False. This is not always the case, but vesting needs to be the same taxpayer for an exchange to satisfy the 1031 code. The taxpayer that will hold the title to the replacement property must be the same taxpayer that held title to the relinquished property. So, as an example, you can sell the relinquished property in your revocable trust and buy the new replacement property in your name because you are the same taxpayer. However, you can't sell as a partnership and buy as individuals. Those are not the same tax-paying entities. So now, go out there and start exchanging. Then, watch this video next.